Right, we're here in Bluebell Woods in Morpeth. I'm going to paint some bluebells, obviously. Early morning, so I'm just trying to catch the early morning light. By the way, my name's Kenton. If this is the first time you've found my channel, thanks for coming. If you've been before, thanks for coming back.
Hi, it's voiceover Kenton here again. Sorry about that audio at the beginning. Believe it or not, considering it was 6 o'clock in the morning when I was recording that, there was still quite a bit of road traffic noise. Welcome along. This is an annual pilgrimage that I do every year, whether I'm either taking photographs or painting or just simply observing this spectacle of these bluebells that come up every year. This is going to be a little painting demonstration. It's just a paint and sketch. I really enjoy getting out with the sketch pad. There's no pressure to produce a finished painting, something that you're necessarily going to be hanging on the wall, but I always learn an awful lot from these experiences simply with observation. I'll be putting a description of where this is if you want to find it. Hopefully you see this video fairly soon, because you've only got maybe 1 to 2 weeks into the second week of May before these will start to fade, so they're right at their peak now. And I kind of knew exactly what I was looking for with this painting this morning, so I got up early. The sun was rising at 5:30 in the morning, so by the time I got there it was about 6:30, so I was wanting this effect of the light coming through the trees. I kind of already had in the back of my mind where I was going to be from previous year's visits. This is the composition that I've decided to go for. And this is just a field sketch, just get a feel of the colours and basically just for pure enjoyment. But I started off with, in fact you can actually see there's 3 little sketches taking place here. So I started off with a very small thumbnail just to sort of check that the composition was going to be right. I changed it slightly with the first kind of tonal study that I did. As the consummate professional, I've turned up today with neither a pencil or my cups of water, which I use for cleaning out the brushes. So when I was looking through the bag for those, I did find some masking tape, so I thought, well, I may as well put that to use and give myself a nice little border so the paint is contained on the paper. When I was doing my preliminary sketch, I went straight in with a very light felt tip pen. I've got a full set of pens from light to dark shades. And here I'm just putting some of the water just in some of those little pans there, because I forgot my water bottles. Because I've done the tonal study already, I know exactly where my lights and darks are, and I'm going for kind of a very colourful approach of this, and I'm going to start off with a underwash of lemon yellow. Because I want to keep the background really light to sort of give the effect of that light coming through the trees, and then I'm putting a red underwash for where the bluebells and the foliage is going to be, and this will become apparent later why I've done that. The reason I like to use red is because it's a contrasting colour to green, so if there's any little bits show through, it just adds a nice little effect when you're putting foliage. So either a cadmium red or a crimson colour, I quite like doing that. And this painting I'm using a 1/2 inch flat brush, which is a pretty big brush for a small painting. This painting is on an A4 pad, so the picture itself is probably pretty much just A5. So I'll start off with the darks first, so I establish what is going to be my darkest colours. Oh, by the way, I'm working with gouache here, which is a water-based opaque paint, but it always remains soluble, so it's kind of like a watercolour but with a degree of opacity to it. and because it remains soluble, if you're not careful and you keep overworking things, you'll start to disturb the paint layers underneath. I'm sort of methodically working my way through here, and as I'm painting, obviously I've done the tonal studies with the felt tip pens, so I know what I've got to work with, but I still keep taking a little look and just reminding myself of the scene. So it's a process of both observation of the shadows and the light right at the beginning, and then during the course of the painting it's going to be a case of studying the colour. Once the background was in, and I decided to start working on the Bluebell, so for this I'm just mixing a alizarin crimson and some ultramarine blue, but adding some white just to give that nice opaque sort of dusky bluebell kind of colour. And I'm obviously working from the back to the front, so the bluebells in the distance there, I'm just kind of keeping them slightly muted and toned down, and then as I start to bring the foliage forward into the painting, I'll add a little bit extra white just to that purpley bluey mix, and then start filling in those details. And what I'm doing here is making a slightly darker bluey purple for the bluebells, and I'm going to leave that just to one side because I know that I'll be coming back to that for the darker details, but at least I'm happy with that colour that I've got there. So I add a little bit of white into that just to lighten it up, and then it's just a case of start bringing this forward. I'm using the brush horizontally just to give the details of the swathes of bluebells going off into the distance. Coming back to this, it kind of worked in perfectly. What I was looking for was this backdrop of dappled leaves and dappled sunlight coming through the early spring leaves. Knew I was going to be aiming for a nice impressionistic feel for this painting, so the morning really worked in perfectly. Once that painting was all dried, I like to just kind of frame it up just to give a nice little feel to just to give a sort of idea of what that would look like as a finished piece frame. Sometimes I'll use white. I thought it just needed the black on this, and that was it. That was the painting session finished. A nice little sketch first thing in the morning. As you can see, I've just added a few of the trees in the background, kept it deliberately nice and loose. It's not okay, you don't need to be starting to stress and worry about getting every single little detail in, and you're not doing a finished painting. It's simply just a little exercise of observation, both of colours and shade, and of course just enjoying being out in nature. So that was it. Thanks for watching. It was time to pack up and head off, making sure that everything was left. I certainly didn't leave a pencil, and I didn't leave any plastic cups because I forgot those.
Thanks for coming along with that journey, and hope to see you again. Bye bye.